Alrighty. Welcome back to the Conscious Continuity Podcast. I'm your host, Rob D. Motto, and this is the second episode where I will pick up where we left off last we spoke. So if you have not heard that, go back and give the first a listen so you can be caught up and you know what's going on. Hope your day is beautifully blessed as mine is. It's an absolute blessing every day to be alive because the day isn't guaranteed. Now, I re-listened to the last podcast before I came up here because I did not take down all the notes that would be very useful to me, and I will be doing that this time. And one thing that said, so it's the 30th of April. I wanted to be one of my physical goals. I'll talk about that stuff later. So let's just pick up with the out of body experience. So in this episode, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over my first out of body experience. I'm going to just tell you from my notes as I wrote it down. And then what we're going to do is I'll go back through it. And now with my new insights, I will describe what these things meant to me, what they mean to me now, which is an ever-evolving thing. As you grow and gain experience, one beautiful thing about it is that one page that you looked at, you first saw it like this, and then as you got older, you got more experience, you now see it like, oh, wait, it was like this, and you grow older, you get more experience, like, wait, oh, it's really like this. So as your perspective changes and you grow, usually how you interpret information does as well. So without further ado, we're going to start off with my first out-of-body experience, and this happened approximately, a few months after I first started meditating. And the way these work is after you have an out-of-body experience, it's very akin to a dream if you're not familiar with an out-of-body experience. So you have the experience, or first you have the dream or you have the out-of-body experience, and then when you come back to, you remember it. There's a fly in here that's about to get swatted. And then you remember it. And so once you remember it, you just immediately write it down and log it to the best of your ability. Because if you don't log it, then the day will go on and life goes on, and it'll slowly seep away from your active recollection. Not that you can't recall it later. It's just, do it as soon as you can because that's usually the most effective. And even if you only remember a little bit, just starting with the little bit you do remember, a lot of times you'll start remembering more as you call upon that memory. Okay. So I went to sleep and then I woke up a couple hours later. The time is 1:21 a.m. I went to sleep again after waking up from my spouse getting home, and in my dream, I was a stowaway on a work vehicle. And I just snuck on this vehicle because I got fired or something happened that caused me to lose my job. And I really didn't know what to do, and I went away on this vehicle that drove into some deserted area where his family and friends are. And I just hitchhiked right there. I thought it was a secret, but turns out they knew I was there. And once I arrived at the destination where this truck was taking me, apparently it was some kind of work truck. And what they did was maybe recycle, or they did something along the lines of recycling some kind of material, recycling some kind of material. And I hitched a ride with them because my job fired me. And I'm going to pause real quick. So this is very entry level note taking. Like I feel my own confusion in reading as I'm trying to recall what's going on. I'm just re-experiencing my own confusion here. So a lot of this is not coherent in the same way of that. When I come back over it, it'll make a lot more sense. So just bear with it. Okay. So I hitched a ride with them because my job fired me, or I left my job or something. But when I was there, when I arrived and they didn't react to me climbing out, they just simply said, "Are you willing to work?" And I was more than willing to work because I knew that they just let me in and knew they accepted me regardless of why I was there. And I started unloading the truck and helping them take stuff out the truck. And eventually, I went to his home. I eventually went to his home. While being in his home, I remembered that I did have a place to go, and I didn't have to stay there. And his wife was getting ready to leave back to Austin, which was the city I was living in, and not wanting to stay the night. And now realizing I did have a place to stay, I asked if I could join her. And once I joined in the vehicle ride home, once I joined in the vehicle ride home or to town, they started driving, and I saw the man through the window who originally picked me up and just drove past. And she just gave him a look and didn't roll down the window to stop talking to him. So it seemed like they communicated whatever needed to be communicated. I asked if she was going to stop and talk to him, and she basically told me she already did, and that rolling down the window was unnecessary. And she explained that her nonverbal communication was enough while writing back. At some point, or she explained that her nonverbal communication was enough. And while writing back, at some point we transitioned to what I believe or what I interpreted as a temple of some kind. And this temple, it was a very large temple. It was a very, very large structure. Huge structure. I'm really emphasizing the size here. It was like a monolithic structure. And I was defending myself from attackers at some point. It seemed as if they were people trying to shoot another individual I was with, and I was trying to protect them. This seems like a new dream suddenly. I eventually managed to leave the facility or building I was in and defend this person to the best of my ability. And somehow that either brought me to the temple or that happened before the temple. I'm uncertain. But while being in the temple, we were supposed to go to another section at the temple, and in my going out of a section of the temple, we were told some information that I can't quite recall about forces that activated, or evil or devil activated, or something that I was being told information about the state of the world and why it feels the way it feels. But those teaching me told me about it was getting close to my time and that I needed to head back. And so I asked, how do I get back? And they told me to begin to run in what direction to take. And then as I was running outside the temple, I wanted to take a picture of the landscape because it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful, just an amazing landscape. And I was trying to take a picture of the landscape. While trying to take a picture of the landscape, I fell off into the waters that this temple was surrounded by, dropping the phone on the ledge as I fell off. And I just simply began to swim to the front of the temple. And I jumped out of the water, and when I got close to the edge to land from jumping out of the water, I did not make it to the edge and fell back into the water. And the current or the waters began to drag me further away from the temple. And as I tried to swim back to the edge, I could not, as the currents of the water were moving faster than me. They were moving faster than I could swim. And just as I perhaps was going to start feel concerned, I was supported, or some type of energy or wave was directed at me, and it allowed and lifted me from the water, allowed me to fly somewhat. And I now began to fly. And as I was flying, the guides or the instructors that were in the temple came out and watched me and were happy that I was using my ability to fly. I was happy too in order to fly, and I was trying to gain control over it, but I could fly. I was that fine. So as I figured it out, I began to fly around a bit, and after I got control, then I needed to go to the top of the temple and speak with the person or maybe the main guy that was there before I needed to leave. And what he wanted me to do was write down what I was experiencing before I left because he knew I was about to leave. And so I went to the top of the temple to write down what was going on. And I began to write down what felt like a lily pad or some kind of bamboo leaf pad. And I was writing with my finger because I didn't have a pen. So I felt as though my handwriting was pretty before, and I wrote down the word fly as I could feel myself shifting, and then I woke in tears because I knew that this was one of my spirit teams, or aspect of my spirit or my guides. So, wow, what a monstrous read. I didn't realize how, what the heck? Like, I know what I'm talking about, but just reading my actual notes is ridiculous. So that was my first experience. So what's interesting is when I was awaking here, the transition between me writing the word fly and then waking up in tears it's like you blinked. It's like it got really bright, you blink, and then you're in your body. So now I'm going to go back through this. And this is why it's important to write down. Write down your entire experience, your entire dream, even if it sounds like an incoherent mumbo jumbo, like what are you writing right now? Because it's more important that you write it down than you get it super accurate. And that's simply because when you're conscious and you're aware, you're able to put thoughts and words together, because thoughts and words, the way we use them here, are not the same in the dream world or in the out of body state. You speak non-verbally, and it's not even necessarily that you're saying, oh, hello, my name is this. It's like you just have the feeling of introducing yourself and saying your name. And the moment you have that feeling, it's instantly communicated to the receiving party. So communication is very different than how we communicate here in the physical. So let's go back through this dream. Now, with my anecdotes. So when I first am getting out of body, what is happening here is that I was asking for guides to help me get out of body. 1 second. Let me take a picture real quick. I was asking my guides, to help me get out of body. Okay. And so before I got into meditation, something that you want to do when you're meditating is set your intention. So you say out loud what it is you're seeking to experience, what it is you want to experience. So you say it aloud with your voice, and then you'll say it mentally. And you'll do this 1 to 3 times. I like to do it sometimes, depending on what it is, I'll do it 10 times in a row just to get it down into my head and bleed it into my subconscious. So you set your intention. So I was always setting my intentions in every single one of my meditations in order to have an out-of-body experience. So I would always say, I invite this experience. I invite going out of body, and I want to maintain my conscious continuity, because at this point I realized that I was going out of body. I just wasn't maintaining my conscious awareness. So I'm trying to maintain my conscious awareness, and I'm trying to get out of body. Like, these are like my objectives I'm trying to do. So I set my intentions, and I consistently set my intentions every single night. And what happens is, again, you're never alone in this universe, because you always have your spirits. Even when you feel alone, you really are not. You just have to come to that realization. And so I'm always inviting them. And this instance of me getting fired or me being removed from my home in Austin was essentially me disconnecting from my obligations or the tasks that I needed to do locally. So how I interpret it, here's another very important part. So when you have dreams and when you have these experiences, your local mind, your brain here has to convert the experience into something it can comprehend. So like in this, a work truck, it's not like when I'm out of body or when you go into the state, there's a truck that comes and picks you up. It's whatever form of transportation that you're using or another entity is using to get you or to get your spirit. My mind converted whatever it actually was into something it could understand, which was a work truck. So, but whatever actually happened in terms of how their perception of what happened, it totally was not a work truck. It just, that was my understanding of it. And so your mind converts all your dreams experiences, all your out-of-body experiences. When you have them and you come back, your mind converts them into a way they can understand. So this is what's important about gaining experience here locally in our waking life, so you can better convert and better understand the experiences you're being shown in your dream states and the experiences you're being shown out of body, so the way you can convert it into something that you understand in a that's just easier for you to understand. And this is also why it's important that if you do not understand it, you still write it down, so that way as you gain increased understanding, you can go back to the old notes and go, that's what that was. I didn't have the understanding then, but as I gain more knowledge and gain more cultural exposure, I talk to more people, understand other people's philosophies, and I just, I'm just growing myself and my awareness. Then it gives me a better interpretation, a better understanding of these prior experiences that maybe I didn't really get or didn't really understand. So all that to say is write it down, write down your dreams and experiences, so that way you can, so that way they can continuously yield value and fruits for you in the future. So my mind converts them coming to get me as a work vehicle. Now, they're coming to pick me up. I've literally asked it. I'm Ubering my spirits, right? It's an Uber spirit thing. I'm like, hey, give me a ride, right? So they actually come and get me. And in my mind, I'm sneaking onto this vehicle. So they come literally to pick me up, and then I'm standing there like, oh, a work truck. Well, I don't need to be here. Just got fired from this place, so I'm just gonna sneak on this work truck. So that's how I'm thinking in this, like, because I'm aware in this. I'm aware in this state, right? So I'm out of body. I gain my awareness. However, I didn't pull through my being and my current understanding. It wasn't like boom, I'm out of body and like, oh, there's a work truck here. I have yet to connect that. Oh, I'm out of body. In Rob D'Amato, the life of Rob D'Amato, that's who I was playing. That's this character I was playing here in this earth life, and now I'm here. So it's like when you first get out of body, a lot of times you don't pull all your memories, and so you kind of are just going with it's appearing in front of you, and you're making decisions there. And this is what's important to train your subconscious, because you're acting off your subconscious and however you interpret things subconsciously. So this is why it's important to implant the kind of ideologies that you want to sustain and stand by. So anyways, I see this work truck, and I'm like, I'm going to sneak on the work truck, okay? So it's like a CDL truck, or it's like a white box cargo van, and inside the driver's seat, you got those two seats, and those were the drivers. So there's two occupants that were driving it, and then there's space in the back. So I sneak into the back, or at least I thought I was sneaking into the back. So in my mind, I'm sneaking into the back, and it's like they're open the door for me. They're allowing me to access the vehicle, and I'm sneaking onto the back of the vehicle. It's like, it must be so strange to them. So I'm sneaking onto the back of the vehicle, and once I'm in, they begin to leave. Now I'm aware of the destination. I know where we're going, right? Because in my notes I say that we're driving to where their family is, and like it's a deserted area. And I remember driving. There's a lot of nature, there's a lot of greenery, a lot of life where we're driving to. So I'm just sitting there sneaking on, as a stowaway, sneaking onto the back. And then once we get to the location of where we're at, I'm like, oh shoot, I'm gonna have to sneak out, right? And so they stop the vehicle. We arrive at the destination. They stop the vehicle, and they get out, okay? And now I'm like, man, how am I gonna sneak out of this vehicle with these guys? They're just standing right there. And so I try to sneak out anyway, which is, oh my goodness, I'm so ridiculous. I'm slinking out. I'm like, imagine you're in the back of that truck and you're like crawling out. Like you're trying to crawl out the bottom. Like I'm like squeezing out, and they're just staring at me. Okay, so I'm doing this weird stuff to sneak out, and they're just staring at me. So imagine someone you have complete visibility on, and they're like, they're like acting like, I don't know what's going on. So I sneak out onto the ground, and I guess it dawns on me that they can just very plainly see me, and they just look at me, and they're like, yeah, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, and then at that point they go, are you ready to work? They ask me the question, am I ready to work? Am I ready to do this work? And I'm immediately like, yes. And now hindsight, the reason I was sneaking is because I felt shame and guilt. So I had this shame and guilt about just the whole history of my life. You know, things that I did when I was younger, things that happened to me when I was younger, things I felt embarrassed of, ashamed of, afraid of, like all these negative emotions. So part of me didn't feel worthy to be seen. And that's why I was hiding. I felt like I needed to hide myself. And that's what was reflecting my behaviors. Because subconsciously I felt part of me in this, and it's this energy that they were giving me, and it's like how powerful they were, and like their energy. I felt like I wasn't worthy. So I felt like the only way I can get on board and be with them is if I sneak and I hid. And the reality was that these perceptions I had of myself just did not matter at all. There's just no relevance in what they were saying. It's like I was worried that there's some dirt on my shoes, and it's like, where we're going, you don't even need shoes. So why are you even wearing shoes? I'm like, oh, but they're my shoes and they're dirty. And it's like, again, where we're going, you won't even have your shoes. So why are you concerned about what your shoes look like? Because it has no relevance here. So, and in that moment, I had that as like an epiphany that I was like, oh, and I was just immediately willing to work, because to me, that was the only reason why I wouldn't be able to contribute or work with them or be around them, is because of this, this idea I had of myself. But it was just that. It was an idea I had of myself. It had nothing to do with anything else. And, just a side note here, once you understand that the only thing that limits you truly in this world and in this life is just the limiting beliefs you have of yourself. Just the idea that you have of yourself is the only thing that can ever truly limit you. And there's so much power in that you don't even understand. And I hope that I can help spark that in you, because that is the only thing that holds any of us back in this whole world. It's not anyone else. It's not anything. It's not any circumstance. It's just how you're interpreting yourself, because how you interpret yourself dictates how you decide to show up in this world, and how you show up in this world is what you get the fruits of, the consequences of how you show up in this world. Whether you think their consequences are good or you think they're bad, it is just a consequence of how you see yourself. So, anyways, once I realized that that didn't matter, I was very willing to work. I was like, okay, yeah, absolutely. And what they had me do is work with this, like this. It was like almost like this material. And I don't have the understanding quite yet, so I got to still do more development. But essentially, it was like I was cleaning something, and maybe it's part of myself. Maybe I was cleaning my hands of myself, or maybe it was like a test, to see my abilities, if I was able to do the work that they were requesting. So I began to do the work very happily. I was very happy. At this point, I'm ecstatic, because I'm thinking I can't get in. And then they go, yeah, not only can you get in, are you ready to show up and work? I'm like, dude, hell yeah, put me in, coach. So I started doing that. And, it was like some type of recycling thing. That's what it felt like to me. And let's see. So after I do that, after I do the work in the beginning entrance, then they take me into their house, what I perceived as like where they live at. And they, again, being like part of my spirit team or spirit guides, this is my interpretation of that. And so we go there, and when I'm there and they welcome me, his wife is there, or at least that's the energetic signature I was getting, that was his wife or a significant other, a spouse or whatever. And I was led to believe that, I'm welcome. They gave me a room, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. It's so nice. And when I get there, I started remembering that, like, this isn't my home. I have a place to go. I actually have a place to go to. And I started remembering that, oh wait, this isn't my house. So I do have a home. And his wife she was getting ready to leave, and she said she was going to Austin, which was the city I was living in. And I didn't want to stay over there, knowing that I actually have my own place to stay. I just asked if I could join her back to the city, and she was like, yeah, sure. And so, this was me beginning to realize that, wait, like I was beginning to pick up on little bits of like, wait, this physical life, this earth experience, right? I have a place though. I have a place I need to go to, right? So that's what that was a byproduct of. I was like beginning to remember. And so, so she, of course, welcomes me to her vehicle, and I get in the car, and I'm in the back seat. And so as we're driving, we pass the man that picked me up originally. And he was just standing on the side of the road, and he was like, he's just looking all friendly and stuff, hands in his pocket. He had maybe like a reddish shirt on. It kind of looked like a farmer almost, like an older farmer. And I wanted to thank him. I wanted to thank him for letting me, like, give me a ride, pick me up, not like let me work. Like, I was so thankful to him. And she was saying whatever she needed to do, and she was just, they were all communicating non-verbally. So all these words, when I'm saying, oh, he says, oh, are you ready to work? None of this is actually being said. It's all non-verbal communication. So there is no hiding in this state. It's like as soon as you think something, it is. It's like that's the moment you think it. You can't trick anybody. It's all immediate communication. It's such fast communication. It's like, wow. Like words are a pale limitation of how you communicate in that realm. So when I'm saying we're saying words, they're not actually words. It's all nonverbal communication. It's just thought. It's like the minute you think whatever you're trying to think or whatever you want to convey, whether it be words, pictures, images, movie, like whatever it is, it just immediately is communicated. So she does that. She communicates with him, and then I'm like, oh, oh, you didn't roll the window down? Like I'm like communicating like, oh, you're not gonna roll the window down to say anything, and then that's when she tells me like, oh, that's unnecessary here, like you don't need to roll the window down to telepathically communicate this information. It's just you just communicate the information. There's no restriction in the way that you're thinking, and I was like, oh, and at this point I kind of I'm kind of recognizing that I'm out of body, like in these little small states that just don't make sense in physical mind thinking, but part of my self is still thinking physically because that's just my frame of reference. Are you back there? Okay. I know there's another thing coming up because I set this to 5. Okay. Cool. Oh, okay, great. Okay. So let's see. So it seems like they can whatever need to be communicated. Just give me a second here for my listeners. So yeah, so she didn't roll down the window, and that's when she's letting me know. So yeah, I'm starting to get these little perceptions of that I'm not physical. It's they're coming to me in flashes, like just in these moments, like, oh wait, I'm not using words. But I don't think even more of it. I just have the acknowledgement, and then it's like oh, I'm having these slow realizations that I'm not physical. And so she told me that it was unnecessary. She explained that nonverbal communication was enough, and that's when I understood that I was doing that. And so on the way there, as we're leaving back to Austin, there's 2 temples. So one temple is very weird. I was protecting somebody. I don't think it was her anymore. And at this point in the experience, my memory seems to have some blanks or something that I'm gonna have to recollect at another point in time. But somehow it transitioned to like, I don't know, like a ninja, almost like this ninja movie. I got a person. I have a very important target, very important person, a high value target that I'm taking care of, I'm protecting, and like there's people attacking them, and it's a lot of attackers, right? It's like imagine some movie stuff. You're on temple, and there's action scenes where it's like a whole army of all these people coming out, kind of like Neo and the Matrix and all those Agent Smiths. When Agent Smith breaks the system and he's like converting all the programs into him, like he's duplicating himself. It's like imagine like a whole bunch of people coming at you, and I'm like defending to the best of my ability. I'm like stopping bullets, slowing down time. I'm like doing all this crazy stuff. So I got to work on what all that represented. But eventually, after that section, after I left that facility or that building I was in, I ended up in another temple. Now, this temple was a huge, massive structure. It's a monolithic structure. Like imagine, I don't know what's the biggest thing I've been around, but just imagine a city as one structure. It was like the whole downtown of Austin just as one thing, and it's surrounded by like water so still it looks like glass. The sky is this hue of blue and purple, and it's reflecting the water. Like the sky's reflecting the water, so it just looks like this. When you're looking around the temple, it looks like this unending landscape. But you can see like almost mountainous structures. It's a talk about fantastical. It is a fantastical sight. So, um, so we get there to that temple. Now, when I get there, there's a back section of the temple that I'm directed to or that I appear in. So I'm directed to and I'm appearing, and it's like this. It is it's huge. Again, it's a very huge temple, and I'm sitting on an enclosed structure of the temple, and it's like fenced off, but there is like maybe this like a big instructor, like a big thing that's telling people, and I was one of the people telling people about what's happening in today's world, and it was creating the understanding of how I interpreted things as the devil or evil, or like my interpretation of these things was a very limited interpretation of it. To say something, oh, this is the devil or this is evil, I was being shown how, well, I mean, there's no necessarily inherent evil or the devil, or as you're describing him, that's not how we describe these things. It's essentially there's different frequencies, there's different degrees. Like $100 may be a lot of money to somebody, but also $100 to someone may be very little or no money. Like if you're a billionaire, $100 is like a penny to you, maybe less than a penny to you, because you have a billion. But if you're poor, you don't have any money, you haven't had money in a long time, and someone gives you $100, dude, that feels like, it probably feels incredible. You're like, oh my goodness, I can eat for the next week, I can survive, so it's very relative. And I was being shown that how I was calling certain energies or aspects evil, it was just like, well, from your perspective, that's how you're interpreting it, but that's not necessarily what it is. This is just your interpretation. And it's giving me a better understanding that it's just all my perspective. It's just all the perspectives you were given. And so I'm learning this, like like I'm being taught this information. And now as I'm being taught this information, let's see. One of the instructors let me know, like, hey, it's about, you are about to have to leave here. So you're going to need to leave the temple, and you need to go do something else while you're here. And so I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then I asked, well, how do I get out of here? And it told me to begin. It told me that like the instructor entity was like to go outside the temple, and it said take a left, not a right. So it's like, to get out of here, go take a left. Do not go right. Take a left. I was like, okay. Left, not right. Got you. So I began to leave the temple, and then there's, you could go right or left, and then I went left, which led outside the temple. And at least I think it was, when I think about the scene in my mind, going out was left. So I'm pretty sure it was left when I remember the scene when I was there, because it's like when you have these experiences, it's like it's no different from. Man, yeah, the other day I went and ate at Yard House, and I ate nachos at Yard House, and it was good. I like the nachos. I got 2 things of guac. Like how I'm remembering it now is a thing that happened to me is the exact same way I'm recalling this. It's like just a thing that happened to you. You have it's no different. There's no difference in the tangibility of it in your memory when you're recalling something. So I go left, and when I go outside the temple, that's when I really was taken back by the beauty of it. I mean, it was like an awe-inspiring, like just something you sit there and you're like, wow, and you just absorb it in. You're like, this is so beautiful. And I was like, I got to take a picture of this. And so I pulled my phone out. And so again, since this is in Thought Realm, if you go, hey, I got a bazooka. It's like, then you suddenly have a bazooka. or if you go, oh, I have this, like it just it creates itself. There's of course limitations, like you can't manipulate other beings and other entities without their consent. However, just for self creation and things within yourself, you can kind of you don't even have to be in human form. You can change what your body looks like. It's like most people when they first get out of body, they just remember themselves as how they looked in the mirror here. However, it's completely manipulatable. I mean, it's like thought energy, so you can shape it however you want. So, anyways, I pull out my phone and I'm like, I gotta take a picture of this. And I'm trying to take a picture. I'm pressing like zoom out to get as much as I can, and then I slip off the edge and I fall into the water. And I'm not panicked or anything. I'm not scared. I don't feel any fear. I just see my phone on the ledge, hanging off the ledge. I'm like, oh, damn it. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna swim around. So I just began swimming around to the edge of like the front of the temple. And when I get to the front, I like swim and then I jump up out of the water like freaking dolphin or something. Like I'm just like jump to get onto the ledge. But the way I jumped at an angle that where I basically fell short of the ledge. So I like missed it and then I fall back in the water. And then that's when the currents start pulling me away from the temple. And I'm like, oh, and I'm like trying to swim. And the currents are like pulling me like faster than I'm swimming. So I'm moving back. And I didn't feel panicked at all the entire time. And so right when maybe I would have started to feel panic because I mean, I'm not getting any closer, I felt this energy. It was like an energy came underneath me and it began to like lift me up. And I was like, whoa. And I'm like out of the water now. And I'm kind of like, I got this energy that's like causing me to float. And I'm like, whoa, I'm like floating. I'm like, this is a strange feeling. I'm trying to get the hang of it. I'm like trying to like figure out how to move. Like, to me, I was just physical walking around on the ground, and then I just fell into water. I'm like swimming. Like I'm not thinking of flying, right? I'm thinking that the way I move is walking, swimming, like how I move here on Earth. And then the energy that was sent over to me was giving me a different sensation of like floating or flying. And so I'm like trying to figure out this sensation. And then as I'm figuring it out, I begin to realize that that someone else is doing this to me, like just giving me this energy. And then I start to actually navigate or gain orientation and then use that energy, that feeling successfully. And then as I'm doing it, I realized like, oh, okay, I can fly. Like I can fly now, which is an awesome. We all here dream we could fly. That'd be so cool, like to just be able to lift yourself up and fly. And so, but it's very possible for you. Your spirit is not tethered in the way that we are in this physical. So as I begin to fly and like I begin to get movement, I'm using it all like naturally. The feeling I was sent was like a sense of pride. And I looked over and on this like little hill or it's like some kind of, I don't know, earth structure, this little hill that was not too far away, were the people or entities that were sending me that feeling. They were sending me they sent me the energy to get me out of water. And then they also sent me the feeling of like what, how we communicate non-verbally, how I was just talking about that. They were sending the feeling that you would feel like a like if you have a child and your child takes his first steps and you're like, oh my God, wow, he took his first steps. Like that's what they were sending to me. They felt so proud that I figured out and I took my first little baby flight by myself. And they were so proud of me, and I felt all that pride, and I was like, oh man, I was like, yeah, I can fly, yeah, look at me, and it felt very rewarding. And so when I was doing that, when I was flying, they were like, okay, do you need to go to the top of the temple? Like you're about to leave, you need to go to the top of the temple. And I was like, okay, so I fly to the top of the temple, and there's this man there, and he's like, it seems like he's like the leader of the temple, or he's the guy of he's like the dude. So I'll go up there. And the temple, it gets more narrow and narrow, so it's like not that big of a. It's like maybe like a 15 by 15 square circle that we're on. A square circle is a 15 by 15 square that we're on, and in the square there's a little circle, and I fly to him, and he's like, He's like, you need to remember, write this down, and so that way you can remember. I was like, okay, I'll write it down so I can remember. And so I land in like this kind of circle structure, and he's telling me to write it down. I'm like, okay, I don't have I didn't have anything to write with, and I didn't have a pen, and so I was like, I just created a lily pad to write with. I don't know why I created a lily pad. I just created a lily pad, and so I created this lily pad, and then I didn't have a pen, and so I used the nail of my finger to write on the lily pad, and I began to etch the word fly. And my handwriting is not, my penmanship is not the best, and so because I have that idea of my penmanship not being the best, completely translated over there because I wrote fly in the most weird, like, it's not the greatest penmanship. And so I write down the word fly, and then as I write that word down, he is telling me, he's like, you're going to remember. You're going to remember. I'm like, okay, I'm going to remember. I'm going to remember. And I begin to slowly lift up from the pad. Like this time it's like I'm flying, but it's not I'm not flying in a way that I just intentionally flew over here, landed. It was just like I was just being pulled or being risen up in a sense. And everything begins to slightly, you know how you got the screens that fade to black? Okay, this is opposite. Everything was fading to white. So it's like my vision became like wider and wider and wider until it was all like white and like washed out. Like all I can see is like how you close your eyes and you just see darkness. It was like the opposite. It was like all I could see is light. And then when it became all light, like my eyes opened in my bed. So it was just like, it's like, and then I just opened my eyes in my bed, and I was like, oh, I'm back. Like that's how it felt to me. It just felt like, oh, okay, I'm back here now. And then I was crying. Like it wasn't like I was just crying. It was just like I was crying I just had been crying apparently. And then as I like kind of was like, oh, okay, I'm back, and I could feel myself crying. Then suddenly a huge surge of like this unconditional like love energy. Like if you read these books or you read these topics, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like the love of the universe. It's the actual fabric of what this entire construct is made out of. Like everything is composed of this energy. This is what like is like some people call it God's love. Did you love the universe? Like it has a lot of titles, and if you're fortunate enough to have experienced it, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. But that was the first time I felt it. And it was such an overwhelming sensation. Like if I think about it enough, I'll just start crying here because that's how powerful it is. It's like, it's indescribable. And when you feel it, you know that there's not a human that can give that to you. It's not of human origin in terms of this earth experience. We are unable to facilitate that type of unconditional love in terms of its raw potential. We can express aspects of love and how we feel towards people, but what I'm describing is beyond that of our comprehension. It's at least to my, maybe I'm just projecting, but just to my understanding, it's just beyond what we experience. And so yeah, and I began to immediately write down this garbled thing, but when I came back to, it's like I was like, that was it. That was the thing. I was like, I was just there. That was the out of body thing I've been wanting the entire time. It's like, it just happened. And it felt so amazing. And then from there, my belief converted into a knowing. Like I had this deep knowing of that experience that I can recall, like no different from walking up the street somewhere and doing something. It was no different in terms of how real it was. And from there, I already believed all this stuff, but now I had the knowing. It's like the knowing made it immutable. It was a factor that, yes, this is very real in a way that is much beyond a lot of people's understanding, but so many people are opening up to this. Oh, Jesus. So many people are opening up to this idea and these experiences, and I was just very fortunate to experience it that way. And And yeah, so that was my first experience, or at least the one that like where I was being intentful about it, because something that was happening the entire time was I was being trained for it. So I wanted to go out of body. However, going out of body is kind of similar like being on the internet and going on like the dark web, like it's going on to the internet. Okay, so when you go out of body, it's like going onto the universe wide web. All right, so there's a lot of stuff out there that may not all be good from your local perspective. You know, it's like you hear people talk about demons and devils and all this kind of stuff. Yes, there's a huge degree, an infinite degree of wavelengths and frequencies, and depending on what wavelength and frequency you're on, you can attract that thing interact with you, and it may not be something you want. Just like you can go on the internet if you go on a dark web without the proper tools, the proper protections, VPNs, proxies, or virtual machines, so that way, if something does interact with you that you unwittingly invite, then you're protected. And versus like, oh, a programmer gets into your computer, hacks your informations, gets all your sensitive information, and starts causing all this chaos in your life. Now, the cool part is nothing can happen to you that you don't invite. So it's a completely consensual based reality or experience, and this is to the best of my knowledge. So it's like it can't happen to you unless you're open to it, or unless you're deceived or you're tricked into it. So this is why discernment is so important, and why you have to do a lot of training on emotional regulation. Because if you are not emotionally regulated, you can experience something that someone caused you to get mad. Like, for example, let's say you're a popular person, or you have some good standing, or and let's say you're financially abundant or something like that, but you're not emotionally regulated. Someone that knows that, I can take advantage of that. I can do something to get under your skin, to piss you off and make you say something out loud, maybe try to make you hit me. Perfect. Now I'm going to sue you. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And I'm doing it all taking advantage of the fact that you are an emotionally unregulated person. And so because you don't have discipline over your emotions, you could be manipulated in ways that don't serve you. But because you did it, you did the thing. It doesn't matter if someone tricked you to eating the cookie. You ate the cookie. So your body is going to suffer the consequences of eating the cookie, of punching somebody, of doing whatever it is. So it's important to have emotional regulation when you're doing these things. And a lot of you will have to go through a lot of preparation like I did in order to even have this experience in the protected way that you want. Just know that once you reach that level, though, it's amazing. It's a beautiful journey. So, always got to mention, shout out to our sponsors, which is ClearPath Credit. They work with you, get your credit situated so that you can get business funding, so that way you can do whatever it is that you want, because that's what this life's about, is doing whatever it is you want. We have to wake up to that and learn that, we're not restricted by finance. I know a lot of people think, I ask people about their passions, they want to act on their passions, and they feel like they're financially restricted or they can't do it because of money. Well, really, it's because of how you think about money. It's because of your thought process. And so to help people with those structures, once you get that understanding, ClearPath Credit is a great place to start. And so, yeah, be sure to check them out, see what they can do for you, because it definitely helped me. And it's what's sponsoring this podcast, okay, man? This stuff ain't free. But if you got the abundance, then it might as well be free, because you can take care of it with any way, with any of your abilities and available means. So I just wanted to get my first out-of-body experience explained and talked about on here, and how I got to it and the process and what it was like for me. So thank you for listening and tuning in. Next episode, we'll have some guests on. I mean, I have the guests. I just got to get them on. We'll have some guests on, and we'll talk about how these concepts apply to your life pragmatically. Because a lot of this stuff is cool to talk about, but it's like after you talk about it, it's like, okay, wow, cool, I believe in that, or, oh, I'm going to do that. It's like, so why? What's the point of doing it? I got rent due at the end of the month still. Rent's due on the 1st. Or if you're landlord property, hey, man, rent is due, and you get money in your pocket. Anyways, the point is, sometimes it's like, what is the significance or the reason to doing this? And to me, I feel like it gives you the direction and fulfillment, the direction to being fulfilled in this life, okay? You're here, we're here in this life, we're here physically. If you didn't want to be here, you'd be dead, okay? Or you just wouldn't be here. That's how simple it is. So I like to use it, I believe that it's to be used to give yourself better understanding about why you chose to be here, what it is that you're looking to do here and how to stay in a state of fulfillment and a state that feels good to be in. And we all know that feeling, right? We all know what that feeling is, to be excited about something, to be excited to be alive. Whatever it is, whether it's playing video games, that's mine. I'm a big video game person. Whether it's working out, that's also mine. I like working out. I'm a big workout person. Or whether it's like just being an artist, just being a creator, whatever it is. It's like you can act in your greatest fulfillment, and we have these limited beliefs on how to get it. And I think by meditating, by having these experiences, it gives you insight on how to better tap into that, to do it in a way that's cohesive and feels natural and feels just like, wow, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is exactly what this is. So yeah. Anyways, leave a comment down below on what you thought of the episode. Thank you guys for listening. And if you listened all the way to the end, comment, I once heard there was a bell pepper named Pete, and you don't want to owe him money. Okay, maybe not all that, but comment something about a bell pepper, so that way I know you listened at least to the end. Okay. All right. I'll catch you guys on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in. It's an absolute pleasure.